Hello, Kim.
Hello, Jen. How are you?
Welcome back to our chat.
Yes.
This week, we want to chat about the idea of negative spirits or entities, vortexes and portals, attachments, darkness, energy that feels weighted. Find your favorite paranormal show and enter any other adjectives that we need there. But talk about the validity of such things, and if they're even possible, or maybe how we as humans are translating something into that it may not be. And I know you have some really interesting, maybe I'll prod you to start in this direction. I know you have some interesting history from when you were younger, I think early teens. You can correct me if I'm wrong on that, where you would have seen some darker figures or felt things, and then through more knowledge, what that energy was. It wasn't so scary. But do you know what I'm talking about? The story you told me?
Yes, I do. I do know that story because that was a story that I lived for many years. And so I'll try to make it as short as possible. But when I was about 6 years old, up until the age of 14, there were times when I would go to bed and I would feel the darkness underneath my bed. And I would feel it kind of coddling me, and not coddling me, but yeah, coddling me. It just felt tight. It felt restricting. I could feel other things in the room as well, in the closet. And you would think at a 6 years old, everything's in the closet, right? But it's still, that belief that I had that something dark expanded as I got a little bit older as well. And yeah, then there were very vivid dreams about certain things as well. It's funny because what happened was when I was 14, about 14, 15 years old, and it got so bad during those years between 6 and 14, is that I would jump in bed with my mother, even at 14 years old. I would jump in bed and she would say, "You had another bad dream, huh?" And I'm like, "Yeah." Never really told her what that was about, but anyhow, it stopped at 14. It just kind of, boom, it was done. And so I went to a medium psychic years later, and I made the mistake of telling her about that experience because I wasn't sure, and I never really took the time to interpret what that was really about. I just kind of brushed it off, because it wasn't happening anymore, didn't know what it was. And she said it was dark spirits that were wanted to attach to me, blah, 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 blah. When she said that, I looked at her and said, "You're full of shit." And she was like, "What?" And I said, "You're full of shit." And because before that, she wanted to offer, for $500, she was going to cleanse the air. And then that's when I said, "You're full of shit." And I walked out. I said, "I'm paying you what I owe you, but I'm not paying you any more money." And then, that got me to thinking and really starting to interpret what had happened at that particular time in my life. And the fact of the matter is this: I come from a very alcoholic family. My father was a very active alcoholic. He was rageful. So what happened was my mind, my 6-year-old mind, my toddler mind, my preteen mind could not wrap my head around the fear, the angst that I felt. I didn't have any verbiage for it. So it was a manifestation of feeling, of anger, of darkness. It wasn't that there was actually something dark in my room. It was in my own mind, because that's the way that I worked it out in my own mind. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. It does. Shortly after my husband passed, my kids were really young at the time, like 5 and 3. And they would, of course, you know, their daddy passes and everything shifts in the house and things go a little crazy, right? So they're having extra nightmares, they're not settling down as well. I can't sleep at night. Everything's going crazy. I had some well-meaning friends come over to be at the house. And the next thing I know is they're getting out the sage and walking around and telling me that there's a portal of darkness in my kids' room. And that's why all of this stuff is happening with them. And the portal needs to get closed so that the darkness can no longer get in, so that my kids will be safe at night. And the reason that I'm not sleeping is because I somehow intuitively know that I need to stay awake to keep the darkness away from my children. Wow, right? Right? So imagine somebody though in a vulnerable state, because it was within weeks after him passing, right? And you let your friends walk around with the sage and you let them tell you all these things, and then you worry even more. And then, like you said, there comes to a point where you're like, what are we doing?
Right.
What are we doing? We're perpetuating. There's not something icky in their bedroom. They've gone through a huge ass change in their life and they're little bitty people, right? And and they know their mother's stressed, even if they can't express that at 5 years old and at 3 years old, they can't express that at all. So no, and it was when I had that realization that things started, because that's when you can start doing your own healing and your own mending and your own figuring it out. And now you're no longer blaming it on the portal that might still be open in your kids' room, letting the dark spirits in. Right? So I think we need to have those check-ins like what you had with yourself, right? And like what that realization I had, that this is not, we can't outsource and blame the feelings that we're having and what's going on around us on some kind of external entity, spirit, dark force, portal of darkness, or whatever it is we're labeling it, right? What part of our humanity do we need to look at and bring into the light? And it's not telling a spirit to get away from us. It's what part of us do we need to lighten up and brighten up or heal or reform or restructure in some way.
And, I just wanted to add to the story a little bit. Then I said that it ended at 14. And I always wondered before I came to the realization what had really happened, why did it stop at 14? It stopped at 14 because my father left when I was 14. That's what happened. It just stopped. You
didn't have that input every day.
No, I didn't. So and so there you go. So there you go. And there you have it. There was something that I wanted to, and I posted up in the mediumship reading room, and I don't know how many people really, I'm sorry. I don't know how many people really read it, but I'm going to try to find it. Okay. And I'm going to read it again. Okay. So, somebody posted a bunch of stuff. Okay. Oh boy, here we go. I'm so sorry. You're probably going to have to edit some of this.
Sorry.
Okay. Yeah, hold on 2 seconds. Jesus.
I know how to cut and paste. It's all good.
Yeah, you cut and paste. That's good. That's good. All right. I don't know where it is now. I have no idea. But it was something that Ann Dow, I had posted her video. It's a girl that I met years ago at a workshop in New Jersey. And we've never met after that, but you know how sometimes you just meet people and you just kind of click, and so she just has a really gentle, down-to-earth approach to certain things. So I would just really, really have people watch her video and really kind of take it to heart, because what she says is, when we pass, basically, I'm summarizing, when we pass, we shed that fear.
Mm-hmm.
We shed all that. That's part of our physical body, and we shed that. We're not stuck.
No.
But I also want to add on to something else, because I don't want to diminish other people's belief systems as well. So when me and Jen are talking about this, we're talking about our own experience and trying to give another side to that.
Yeah. And
So, you know,
really, you said the word belief systems, but I want to reframe maybe that word a little bit, because yeah, it's to recognize that our belief systems feed into our interpretation of these experiences, right? So
right.
even if we've ditched one dogmatic tradition for something else, unless we've grown up with certain things, we've seen certain things, we recognize certain things, we believe certain things, and then when we have an experience, our body translate that to the best of its ability based on those beliefs. So part of our mission all the time is to keep growing up in those beliefs and keep revisiting them, so that we don't stay in a fearful world or a place where we think that we are the complete victims of outside forces all the time, and that we have no control over our own lives because there's wayward spirits or stuck spirits or spirits that can stick to you or influence you or scare you in some fashion. I mean, think about, I know we talked about last week of owning your own soul and the fact that you are spirit, right? I think this falls into that category. If you recognize yourself as a powerful force of spirit, the rest of this stuff makes no sense.
It's true, but when you are talking about people that have grown up in a certain belief system, such as Hinduism or Eastern Indian philosophies, or shamanism, and they're in that, and they believe that, and just as we believe, and we may have believed a set part of a belief system, and then like you said, as we grow and evolve, it changes.
Yeah.
But it's really, really hard when what happens is we feed into it. That's what happens sometimes when and I'm talking about the belief system of the fear, and just think about when you went to catechism, or I will say when I went to catechism, or I went to Catholic school, that belief system that you do something wrong, that you're going to go to hell, that you are going to, or you're going to go to purgatory, and that there are red demons down there and you're going to burn for eternity. So until you grow up and mature, your belief system starts to evolve. I'm not saying that anybody here needs to evolve so much. I'm just saying that there are different belief systems.
Yeah, but I think you're right, though. I think we all do need, no matter what belief system we're holding, we do have this responsibility to our own growth and our own recognition to keep evolving. I mean, I don't think that's a wrong word for anybody. I think that's part of the you get to choose as human, whether you want to stay in a certain space and hold on to those things, or whether you do want to expand and reform. And maybe some of that you decide is still appropriate for you, but are you willing to keep revisiting it with new knowledge and new recognition of experience, or do you dig your heels into something that, will hinder you, especially if you're somebody that's practicing mediumship or practicing healing? Limited belief systems or not being willing to keep revisiting your own system and expand on that will limit what you can do in your mediumship. It just
how much healing you could provide for that person. Right. Because when they leave you, you want them to walk out a little bit lighter than they walked in. You do not want to instill fear, and sometimes I've heard some people, some mediums from clients tell me, well, they told me this or they told me that, and I walked out going, oh my God, and again, they're instilling fear because of their belief systems, and they're imposing on somebody else. So sometimes, even if you have that belief system, sometimes if you know that it may be do more damage than good, it's better to keep your mouth shut about it. That's my belief.
No, I think you're right. We need to know where our own limitations are, or where our own boundaries are with what we recognize as our own beliefs or knowledge or any of that.
I want to, it's kind of off the subject a tiny bit, but I just want to For example, I had a belief system. I was born and raised Catholic, went to Catholic school. And it's just recently, some of my friends had suggested when they were down here that we all go to a Bible group. And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. But their intentions were pure. And as I thought about it and whatnot, because I have a different view about the Bible itself, but most I've been thinking about this a lot lately, especially when Christmas time comes around. And just the thought that the past 58 years, I truly believed that a 13-year-old girl got pregnant by an angel.
Yeah. So yeah, there is a whole,
Yeah.
if you take religion out of it and go for just the way the humans process and grow in the philosophy that psychiatrists and philosophers have found, taking what you just said there is actually one of their examples of when do we realize, or when are we willing to realize in our own personal growth that some of those magic and mythic things that we held on to are not, because magic and mythic in terms of evolution of the whole humanity as well as our individual is kind of towards the bottom of the ladder, before, and that's below rational. So if you think about that, do we really want to be in a place where we're not even hitting rational? And are we keep checking ourselves with that? Did Moses really part the Red Sea? Probably not. And do we want to keep hold of things like that, or do we want to recognize really what's going on between us and this divine matrix of reality that we recognize in mediumship?
Well, yeah, the example I gave about, the Virgin Mary and whatnot, this is a story that's been handed down for 3,000 years.
Yeah, but it's also in multiple dogmatic traditions. It's just not a Catholic thing. So
No,
it's like this wish, there's more than that going on there in a story like that.
say is that it has been that belief system has been handed down for 2,000 years. No, it's not just a Catholic thing. It's like, yeah, I get that. But what I'm saying is it's been handed down. And so once you repeat it once, and then you repeat it again, and you repeat it again, then you've repeated it 10,000 times, then 1,000,000 times, it becomes fact. So let's go back to what people believe in the fear of spirit. It's been repeated once, twice, 10 million times, and it starts to become fact.
Yeah. But yeah. Or a perceived fact.
A perceived fact.
A perceived fact. Yeah. Yeah.
But like our friend Tina that had posted under that one post, check your, what did she say? Check your carbon
monoxide. Yeah. And we need to remember that. We need to, if our lights are blinking, if all of a sudden our house is cold, if the refrigerator hums weird, if, whatever, you check your house before you blame it on a spirit entity. We need to be real about these things. Or like the people that you see a light flare in your camera and it's usually green and it's usually at a particular angle. It's because of the way, especially our digital phone cameras capture light. It doesn't mean that there's an extra something there. It means your phone made a phone flare. And it doesn't mean that these things aren't possible. The paranormal and the recognition of spirit and the physical is possible. But do we want to lay all our eggs there, or do we want to be real about it?
I agree.
Okay. Did we exhaust that one, Kim?
All right.
All right. If you'd like us to speak about something else, keep posting and we'll talk to you.
For this one, but yeah.
All right. Bye.